people want to see in entertainment parts of themselves. They want to see their culture. They want to see it explained to them. They want to have something in common with the entertainment. Half the population in the South, because in many counties 40%, maybe even more, of the population was black, some of the African culture seeped into American psyches whether they knew it or not. Some of the most sophisticated music in the world is African, and frankly, it's one of the few pieces of culture that the slaves could bring with them that couldn't be taken away because it existed in their heads. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that the White House is just being built, and it's being built by slaves. It's really being built in the South because Washington, D.C. is really at the very northern perimeter of the South. So it's clear they're wrestling with culture. They're wrestling with what is the relationship between white people and black people.
During these turbulent times, a new act started appearing on the stages of the big cities and underneath the tents of the traveling circuses.
People imitated black culture, painted their faces black, and began to create what people always create. That is, they take some parts of some music, some parts of some culture, and they blend them into something entirely new.
In 1832, Thomas Daddy Rice performed the Jim Crow in New York City, claiming he had learned the song and dance from a crippled slave in the South. The immediate success of Rice's performance set a new standard for blackface entertainment. In February of 1843, Dan Emmett, Billy Whitlock, Frank Pelham, and Frank Bauer came together to perform for the first time an entire evening of the oddities, peculiarities, eccentricities, and comicalities of that sable genus of humanity. Dubbing themselves the Virginia Minstrels, the four men codified the entertainment form which swept the nation almost overnight.
People were curious about the black population, and somebody gave them a nice little package, say, here's what they're like.
Spreading as quickly as the young nation that created it, minstrelsy, by 1855, claimed 5 professional troupes in San Francisco alone. An entire evening's worth of entertainment, the new minstrel show consisted of 4 men seated in a semicircle, performing songs, dancing, and joke-telling, all at the expense of the African Americans they claimed to portray. On one end sat the tambourine player, referred to as Mr. Tambo. At the other end was a bones player, often called Brudder Bones. Both endmen were the most buffoonish of the group, speaking an almost undeterminable supposed Negro dialect. In the middle sat the interlocutor, the only person on stage not in blackface. The interlocutor personified the dignity white men saw in themselves.
Mr. Interlocutor, sir, you have a brand new coat on while you're looking the picture of health this evening, sir.
Well, you look like you might be out for an evening on the town yourself.
Oh, no, sir. I'm in mourning. You see, my dear old brother died last night.
Oh, poor fellow. Well, what did he die of?
He died of sinus trouble.
Sinus. No, the medical term is sinus.
Oh, no, sir. He died of sinus trouble. You see, we was stepping out of a coach last night with another fella's wife when he seen us.
Before the Civil War, these acts were almost always set on southern plantations. Entire troops would dress in ragged slave clothing and mimic their perception of typical slave life. Minstrelsy lasted roughly 50 years as America's favorite form of entertainment, but as the controversy of the African Americans' role in society subsided, so did minstrel's popularity. But many ideas of how African Americans were supposed to act remain, creating the stereotypes that we still see today.
Then lay down the shovel and a hoe, and hang up the fiddle and the bow. No more hard work for poor Ned. He's gone where the good doctors go.
Well, what is a black accent? Well, people thought they knew. How do black people talk? People thought they knew.
Now, you see, Andy, first, the atom splits into what they call a monocle. And then the monocle busts and breaks down into what they call neutrons, photons, big newtons, and morons.
If marriages are made in heaven, My guardian angel has sure been loafing on the job.
When I look at television today, you know, the MTVs and the BET and different Comic View and those type of shows that are out there, I mean, we still, even today, see the same negative stereotype of African Americans.
Utterly racist on the surface, minstrelsy seems only to reinforce racial stereotypes that followed us through history, all the way up till today. But perhaps this gross ritual was the first glimpse at American culture that has always been enamored with African culture. This pattern of white musicians mimicking black music is a trend that would only continue through different eras of music.
And that was the beginning of a long relationship between blacks and whites and black entertainment and white appropriation of it, and this strange dance that we've been doing with each other since really the beginning of our relationship in America. It's too close, it's too deep a story. So you have to degrade the relationship. You have to do degrading things so that you can live with the tremendous affront to humanity that slavery was.
As I look at culture and as I see how people are trying to define themselves, it is interesting to see how culture, how music, how theater tells us what we are and then asks us what we could be. Sometimes I think people say things in music or say things in theater, and they're really poignant questions. They're really things that need to be asked, and we're afraid to say them out loud, but we will say them sometimes in music.
Minstrelsy attempted to portray the lives of slaves through mostly English-style songs and a broken representation of the language of the day. I think that the inaccuracy of the portrayals of African Americans says a lot about culture. It's something that cannot be recreated or mimicked, and only when we realize that we're all essentially American can we overcome the boundaries of color that have so long divided us.